This next one is one of those situations where somebody says the tweet, but then they look at who the tweet or where the tweet was sent from. Do you know how that works?
Yeah.
It's like the Twitter police concept.
And then they find the history of who they are, what they do, and everything about them.
No, that's not what I meant.
Oh.
I meant like you say something negative about Apple, but you tweet it from an iPhone.
Oh.
That's what I was talking about.
Irony.
Yeah, it's just
in a way,
I don't know. You just hear about from time to time where the next tweet, the top reply will be like tweeted from iPhone, and it will be a tweet that's about boycotting. Anyway, this is okay. So
I hear you.
Do you know this person, Candace Owens?
I feel like I should know her.
Okay, well, she's just a online
US
political commentator, right wing, and
I've heard of her name quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard her. She has done major views on Facebook, if I recall. And anyway, she has like this very divisive. It's not really actually all that important to this story. I'm more interested in the tech aspect of this story rather than the politics. But she's a divisive figure. Some people absolutely love her. Some people absolutely hate her, depending on where a person lands on the political spectrum. But lately, and I don't know how much you've been following this, and I promise this is not becoming a politics show because I have a point here that I'm going to make about tech. Because of recent events, there's been all kinds of banning of people and platforms. So you had Trump got banned off Twitter, Facebook. A lot of feelings and opinions on this, if it's the right move, if a person should be able to, like the dangers in a person having a platform versus the dangers of pushing a person off a platform and having them start different platforms. Then you have no idea what they're talking about. And everything goes underground and becomes potentially more radical than what it was that was being talked about in public. This is a whole philosophical conversation where you land on it. But, I mean, it might be easier to become a radical individual in private than in public, is one of the arguments. The other argument is, well, I don't really care because the risk factor of having that individual out on the public inciting something, whatever, these private platforms don't want to be affiliated with it.
Yeah.
They got advertisers. At the end of the day, it's easy to say, oh, it's some sort of a large conspiracy. It's fun to say that. But you know what else is at play? Is how they get paid. And how at the end of the day, any platform you're participating in online, whether it's here on YouTube or you're on Twitter, it's all ad-based, man. And so therefore, if an advertiser picks up the phone, if they spend enough money and they're like, you know, I'm going to pause my spend on this because I don't like your decision on that. As a business, you're taking that into consideration as a private entity. So anyway, I'm just painting the picture here. Trump got banned from Twitter, Facebook, etc. Then this other social network called Parler gets wiped off the face of the earth. Now, this was some sort of a offshoot of Twitter at some point. Yeah, look, the site is down. An offshoot where you could say whatever you want and not get kicked off the platform. And it was a popular choice amongst certain political groups. But the problem is, this is kind of the effect of what I was saying, is if you kick a person off Twitter, like look at the difference in language on Twitter versus Parler. If you go look at some quotes from what people are saying on Parler, it's another level to it. Because it's become more and more fringe. And so it can, the stew with which everything is marinating becomes more
concentrated.
Yeah. As opposed to diverse.
Yeah.
You know, where at least, and I know most people manage their feed in such a way that it mostly just gives them what they want to hear anyways. But at least on the platform somewhere is an alternative viewpoint to your own. Anyway, so Parler goes down as well, and she gets upset about that, and a lot of people get upset about that. And the reason Parler went down is because its hosting service said, we're out. We saw what happened at the Capitol. We see what's going on over here. We do not want to be associated. So it was Amazon AWS. Yeah. And they said, we're out. And so the service backend relies on it. And now they're suing. Parler is suing Amazon, I believe. But it's not a lot of other brands or companies or products that can deliver a product similar to AWS. So they're kind of stuck, and they might be done because there's no way for it to happen if these partners don't want to do business with them, which, by the way, private companies, they can do as they please.
Right.
Got to put that in there. So anyway, she comes out and says, where's the tweet? Where's the quote? Oh, I got to get it. I got to get it for you exact. Well, that's a portion of it. I had the actual full tweet somewhere. Maybe it wasn't in this article. Recently, we've seen steady increase in violent oh no, that's it. There's a tweet. Thank you, sir. Unbelievable speed. She says, now Apple, so it's a tweet, then she quoted her own tweet. She goes, now Apple and Google are threatening to ban Parler to stop people from going to any alternative platform. They are creating a monopoly. They want no ideas, all caps, or conversations, all caps, that they are not able to control. They do not want conservatives communicating with one another. Yes, they don't. They of course they don't not want control. They run on advertising. And maybe people want to make the case that, well, wait a minute, aren't there people on all ends of the spectrum that want to purchase advertising? I don't know. I'm sure they do know. They have a revenue structure. They're well aware what their spending looks like. And I can tell you, at least from my end, having examined CPMs and revenue associated to advertising on the internet, when stuff gets squirrely in the world, when there's conflict or you have unsavory events take place, or less than picture perfect global events going on,
unrest,
any kind of unrest, justified or otherwise, advertisers put their money back in their pockets. They just say, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. I don't necessarily want to be associated with all these strong opinions that may draw a connection between my brand and that negative sentiment or that angsty or that conflict. We're going to be careful here. And they do it every time. And so these platforms have that to deal with as well, just to be clear. Anyway, her next tweet is, there needs to be a class action civilian lawsuit against Google and Apple, and we need to stop using their products. Trump needs to join Parler. Parler needs to get ready to drop a serious lawsuit. You cannot censor 75 million Americans. This is insane. Okay, that's her tweet. And then, of course, the very first reply, you first, with a screenshot of tweeted or Twitter for iPhone. In other words, she tweeted her Apple boycott tweet from an iPhone.
Ooh, sick burn.
And it happens every time.
Yeah.
And it happens every time. And it's funny because I know it gives you a little, you got a little like, gotcha in there. But it's not really what she's saying exactly, because she's kind of talking in the future to a certain. She's saying we need to stop using their products. In other words, I'm currently using their product, right? It sounds future tense as opposed to present tense. Is that how you say that? Future tense? Anyway, it doesn't change the fact that it's kind of a ridiculous tweet when you're looking at it from the standpoint of a tech enthusiast. If you stop using Google and Apple products, I don't think you're on the internet anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think you're on the internet. I really don't actually know how you continue to run your platforms and run your business, whatever your businesses are, without Google or Apple. I think you need one or the other. You might be able to stop using Apple, and you might be able to stop using Google independently. But to stop using them both means Android and iOS are out the window. So now I'm not sure, you don't get to use a smartphone?
Well, you have to use one of those dumb phones.
Yeah, but then you can't run your business. She can't send the tweets like that on those phones. So she has to go back to her desktop computer running Windows.
Yeah.
In which case, I'm pretty sure Microsoft, who got mentioned as a potential to pick up Parler, because they have that Azure, I'm pretty sure they're not going to do it either. So now she's got to add Microsoft to the list and Amazon, and there's nothing left, which I don't know if that makes people comfortable or not, to finally recognize how reliant we are on a couple of different companies. But either way you slice it, the tweet is kind of short on that front, regardless of the fact that it was tweeted from an iPhone. So, but I think we're collectively coming to the realization here that just how fragile all this stuff actually is, that it may feel like a utility at times. And that's actually what makes these things feel strong, because in your head, they don't really feel like products. Right? It's like YouTube feels like a thing that's always going to be there, and Twitter feels like a thing that's always going to be there. Same with your accounts and everything else. And I'm not saying that, I mean, most people don't have a reason to be banned, but every time you get reminded that these are private companies making decisions in private that in some cases need to be made, every time you're reminded by that, I personally can't help but get a sense of fragility of the whole thing, that it's a group of people making these decisions that are not, they have their business interest in mind, but we're kind of, the way the public perceives their platforms is different than a typical business with a handful of people making the decisions. That's all I'm saying. There's kind of a disconnect there.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, just a reminder that it's just the private companies have in this situation, this handful of private companies has a tremendous amount of power. And that shouldn't be a realization that you're just coming to right now. That's been like that for a little while. It's just we're not faced with it all the time. And it's sure not an easy position to be in either. When, I mean, you look at the backlash on this stuff, it's just like, I have no idea what's going to happen, by the way. Well, nobody does, but it's just, you look at the Trump stuff.
Yeah.
And you talk about whatever it is, 80 million followers and the account deleted. I mean, look what happens if what if just a regular citizen, a YouTuber with 80 million followers gets deleted?
Yeah.
It's a big deal to people.
Yeah, man. There's been so many tipping points with Trump in power. It's every day is just news about him. It's kind of scary.
Anyway, it's impossible to boycott. It's impossible to boycott Google and Apple. That was the main thing I wanted to talk about. Is just the realization that is a duopoly. That is the thing that Epic says. There is really, I don't know what OS reasonably, like, no one's using whatever Huawei's working on. You're not connected to the world without iOS or Android.
Yeah. Did you make your point clear? Like, are you?
Am I happy with it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's. Okay. I mean, these are impossible topics to fit with just a series of words.
Yeah.
Because there's so much emotion associated with it, but it's just that one line. We need to stop using Google and Apple. That's the thing that put this story in it for me today. How impossible that actually is for almost anyone to completely stop using Google. I want to know in the comments, has anybody successfully quit Google and Apple? And if so, what are you currently using? Maybe Edward Snowden has quit Google and Apple. He probably has.
Yeah, probably.
He's on Linux and everything has to happen on his laptop. And that's it.
Probably.
Can you run Linux on a phone? Probably somebody's doing that too.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm sure there is.